morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mormedi online session, Essentials for the Future of Retail and the New Normal. I am Valeria Velasco, in charge of marketing and communications here at Mormedi. Before we begin, I just want to share you some details. First, questions will be responded at the end of the presentations during the panel session. Still, please write them down on the chat box as soon as they come up to your minds, and we will make sure they are answered at the end. Second, this event is being partially recorded and we will share the recording with you within the next days. Third, some of the presentations also will be shared via email with those registered to the event within the next days. Finally, let me introduce to you our moderator for today's event, Kate Anquetil, CEO and founder of GDA Creative Intelligence. Kate is a business futurist adept at making complex societal shifts and emerging technologies relatable for any audience. She also advises on the future of customer experience, how marketing is evolving, and how the best of the best are using tech to adapt to new customers' behaviors. She is a retail trend partner for the annual NRF Big Show and an innovation partner to around 30 of the world's largest consumer brands, including Tesco, T-Mobile, Pandora, Costa Coffee, Clorox, P&G, and RV. Kate, thank you for coming to us. Please, the event is all yours.
Thank you so much, Valeria. And good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us at this, relatively early hour. Valeria is going to play a little short video that GDR put together, which I'd like to kick off with, and I'll talk over. But it shows some of the most impressive physical retail flagship stores that GDR has come across over the last sort of year, 18 months. And it will play momentarily, I'm sure, but essentially what it shows is absolute wow factor, gorgeous, experiential, immersive spaces. So things like the KDDI telecom store in Japan. This isn't a store. Well, it is a store. A third of it is a store, but 2/3 of it is essentially museum. Immerse yourself in the wonders of 5G in order to really learn about that technology without realizing. We have grocery stores in China with 20 bars or more, extremely experiential. We have skin schools, we have perfume labs, we have running stores where you run against a wall and have your gait measured and then have the shoe perfectly suggested for you. We have, as you can see, the House of Rituals in Amsterdam, where you can create custom perfume. The idea about the flagship is that you do something there that is unique, personalized. You can't do it online. You can't do it anywhere else in the world. You usually take something away that is singular to you, as well as it being a memory factory. And this last one, I mean, whoa, look at these bookshops in China. The fact that every single person has a phone in their hand and is recording themselves just goes to show that this is the quintessential flagship store, something which is part of one of the best days of your life. So that's flagships. They are not going anywhere. They're extremely robust, I think, as a model, and I think we don't need to worry about them. What we do need to worry about more, of course, is regular retail, physical retail in regular high streets. That's where we've had a lot more trouble. And of course, we have many void spaces in our high streets as a result of failure in these areas. So what are the big trends? I would like to suggest there's 5 that are occupying me and my team and my clients at the moment. And one of them, and this is all positive, all great elements to grasp and move forward on. There's Just Walk Out, of course, for grocery. In the UK, Amazon Go have just announced they're going to open 260 new Just Walk Out stores over the next 3 years. That is going to change our high streets and the competitive landscape. Secondly, there's last mile, super fast delivery, dark store type warehousing, which is taking up some of those empty spaces in high streets. The whole element of logistics, the back end, the payment systems, all extremely important and all innovating at lightning pace. store as an extension of the smartphone, I think, is very important. That allows you to have smaller footprint stores with the endless aisle, where the store itself is almost becoming, as a support to e-commerce, it's a changing room for your e-commerce. It's a click and collect space that's been optimized for e-commerce. It's a trial space. It's a playground with concierge, perhaps live streaming, but on a much smaller scale. Also, retail as a service, I think, is a very interesting and growing area. We're seeing it in the department store of the future, the likes of Neighborhood Goods or Showfields in the US, or Situ Live in London's Westfield, where you have temporary kind of pop-up style spaces where brands and retailers are renting shelf space with surveillance data capture in order to optimize their ability to sell in future. So these are very interesting. Beta, Toys R Us are using this concept in America as well. And finally, I think the interplay between the online and the offline. Okay, we all know about the omnichannel journey. We've all been on that for the last 10 years. But I think what's interesting now is a third channel emerging, which is omniverse commerce. Now, I won't say too much about the omniverse, but it is of great interest. Sorry, I actually meant to say metaverse. Omniverse is even beyond. Metaverse is where we're at now. Brands and retailers are starting to realize that there is an opportunity for them to be present in the metaverse. And I know that Addy is going to talk much more about that shortly. So that's my little intro done. I'm now going to introduce our first illustrious panelist. And his background is so impressive that I'm afraid I do have to read his bio in order to get this right. But this is Javier San Felix, who is CEO of PagoNext, which is the new business run by Banco Santander to bring together its payment businesses. Prior to this role, he was COO of PagoNext, head of global payment services, head of the retail and business banking, and deputy CEO for Santander UK, where he lived for 3.5 years. He was responsible for the retail and banking division at group level, working across the Santander franchise to support the commercial transformation jointly with the local banks. And before Santander, he was a senior partner at McKinsey. So over to you, Javier.
Thank you very much, Kate, for that very embarrassing introduction. Sorry, I don't recognize myself. I guess I'm turning too old. Thank you to Jaime and the Mormedi family for extending the invitation to join as a panelist today. I'm afraid I'm not going to be covering so exciting topics as Kate just did or Adi a bit later, because at the end of the day, financial services and payments are a very much needed element into the retail journeys, but are probably the less beautiful or smart of them all. I want to start, if I can have the next slide. Yes, the next one, please. I want to start just sharing 4 basic trends that we're seeing from a payments perspective in the retail industry. And I guess these are not contentious at all. The first one is growth is back. So after the recovery from the stimulus and vaccines, we see growth in the economy. And at the same time, we see extensive growth, of course, in any way of digital payment method, especially in some countries that soon will be totally cashless. So society is more and more one where we not that often will see coins and bills moving in any sort of way. The second trend is about merchants. Merchants who are our customers, our main customers as payment providers for them, are demanding what we call one-stop shop solutions, which are solutions that do not just allow them to collect their sales, but also integrate with what we call value-added services that help them manage their business in a more seamless manner and allow for the type of journeys that we just saw in the introductory video. Together with that, finance at point of sale is not a new trend. It's something that we have done forever. But the truth is we're seeing new ways of doing that, both for merchants, but also for end consumers, and everything that we call buy now, pay later, all sort of new ways of paying small ticket items that were not previously financed are changing the way as well we relate and we offer solutions in the short term to customers. Technology is at the core of everything that is happening. In payments, removing friction from the moment of actually checking out and closing the transaction, it's key. Use of biometrics, digital identities, and so on, embedding all the right risk mitigation items, it's an absolute must. I'll give you just an example of something that we're testing right now. We're testing the ability to pay just with a smile. So you will just look at the camera, you will smile, and you will approve your transaction. No longer, not even a PIN or a biometrics from your fingerprint or anything like that. All these trends are creating a huge competition. Not surprisingly, the market is valuing these businesses at very high multiples, and therefore we're seeing a race for gaining a scale to allow the type of technology investments that are needed. And we're seeing all sort of convergence between different players in the what it was traditionally a reserve ground for financial institutions to compete. The ugly result of it is margins are compressing and therefore making our life a little bit more difficult. Now, I'll go a little bit faster through the next slides, if I can have the next one, just to say that we don't see a change moving forward in these trends. So the growth rates of electronic payments or anything that is digital around how we shop or how we commerce is only going to continue increasing, while cash will rapidly continue its decline. In the US, only 18% of all total payments at point of sale are now cash. It's an amazing transformation in just, let's say, 5 years, where the numbers were significantly higher than this. If we move to the next slide, please. This is what I covered as a demand from merchants to actually have integrated solutions. Is no longer good enough to have just a POS, whichever you talk about and however fancy that POS is. Commerce is commerce at the end of the day. We no longer talk about e-commerce and physical commerce, to be honest. We just talk about commerce. I love the Metaverse, and I'm very much eager to learn a little bit more about it in a few minutes. But everything that we do has to support merchants in actually making life easier, in selling more, in actually learning about the habits of their consumers, enabling lending in a frictionless way in just a matter of seconds, creating loyalty and engagement with the retailer. So all these solutions are now so much integrated with the self-payment solution that we cannot actually separate one from the other. If we move to the next, please. This is the result of a survey done to a significant number of merchants, and it's already a few years old, but 3-4 years old. But when we were asking, when Bain was asking merchants what sort of POS were they expecting to use, you see a big switch between what we call integrated solutions that are fully interlinked with the business management software for the petrol station, for the department store, for the supermarket, from those that actually are only using what we would call traditional POS terminals, even if this was a digitally enhanced one from or really mobile one from whichever brand we could choose. We move to the next, please. BNPL, as I said, is probably the hottest or one of the hottest topics in payments right now, in retail payments. And basically, we see countries where this new ability to pay $20 purchase or a 45 euro one over any retail store and having it paid over a number of weeks with no interest has become super popular, especially in the northern countries, but also in a large economy as Germany, where we see big players that only came about 4 or 5 years ago have managed to achieve a huge market share. These are ways of financing small ticket purchases with no credit cards, no debit cards, no previous lending profiles, and allowing customers to have a truly frictionless experience, allowing merchants to increase the conversion rate and have a much higher rate of sales over potential opportunities, and at the same time allow the operators to have a very rich set of information that allows them to develop loyalty relationship with these customers and the ability to cross-sell future opportunities. This has started just as a way to enhance and increase conversion rates in the digital world on e-commerce, but now we see these solutions extending as well to in-store and taking all sort of inbreed solutions merging with other existing payment options. If we move to the next one, please. And this is creating a very, very competitive landscape, which at the end of the day is the best ingredient to foster innovation, is the best ingredient to drive competition and to create new, exciting solutions for customers. Obviously, it's not the best to generate high margins for payment players or financial institutions, but it's the right thing to do to accompany the amount of amazing innovation that we're seeing in the space. This was only a few years back an industry dominated by what we call pure pay players who actually have gained a scale over the last decade as a way to remain competitive as margins were increasingly narrowing. We also had the traditional software providers, quite of them very sophisticated and actually driving innovation in retail in many ways. And now we have these new companies that have at the same time been evolving themselves in their propositions over the last decade, converging solutions purely from the payment space with software solutions that allow them to manage the business in a far more integrated manner and deliver more stickiness, more engagement, more opportunities for merchants to actually grow their business and increase their visibility both in physical and in the digital space. And I just wanted to finish with a slide just reflecting that this is becoming a far more consolidated industry. The scale that you need to have after the amount of M&A activity that we have seen very recently, driven, as I said, by very high margins, by very high multiples at which these companies quote in the stock market, is making this industry increasingly competitive and certainly with the right muscle to actually face the innovation challenges that we have ahead. Just to close the last one with, I couldn't finish or stop without just saying 2 words on ourselves. So I represent PagoNext, which is the new payment company of Santander. We operate through GetNet, which is a merchant service provider, bringing together all these propositions to a marketplace and working together with merchants. Thank you very much. And back to you, Kate.
Thanks, Javier. That's super interesting. I'm sure we're going to have lots of questions on that. So just a reminder to our viewers to type in your questions into the chat and we'll come to them shortly. But our next panelist is equally illustrious and has had a very interesting career. So this is Adi Verdi. Over the last 20 years, so we've all been around for quite a long time, he has applied strategic thinking and knowledge to immersive production and worked with various organizations to develop cutting-edge story worlds. I love that phrase, story worlds and IP. So basically, he's a master storyteller. He has a keen interest in using stories for social justice. Super interesting, that. And he is positioned as a leading thinker in leveraging emerging technology to deliver narratives that provide a framework for both social and commercial impact. Now, he was most recently, until the last few months, at Facebook, where he led the emerging platforms team and their exploration of VR, XR, and immersive experiences. So this is extremely relevant to what a lot of our clients are interested in at the moment. He is an expert in VR, commercial and social impact, and has deep product and strategic knowledge of VR, XR, AR, and immersive experiences, audience engagement strategy, and organizational behavioral mechanics. I hope I've got that right. Strategic narrative thinking and experience design. So it's quite a complex set of skills you've got there, Adi. I'm sure you're going to tell us about the metaverse. Over to you.
Thank you. That's an amazing introduction. It's one of those things of trying to find something that I really am interested in and just sort of dabbling. So you kind of find yourself, doing lots of different things. It's great to say all that, but essentially what it means is I'm just curious, and I think that's kind of what's led me to where I am. So I'm just going to share my presentation, and I think the thing's still recording. Is it possible to do that? Can we all see the screen?
Thank you so much for bringing this all together, Jaime. This is all down to you and Mormedi, and it's been a long time in the planning. So to our illustrious host, I'll just do a quick introduction before he does his presentation. So Jaime Moreno is CEO and founder of Madrid-based agency Mormedi. And he had the beginnings of his career as a design consultant for Philips at the domestic appliances department in Holland, obviously a very big team there, very important work. And after founding Mormedi in 1997, he grew the company with a very high level of international projects for companies like Airbus, Air Europa, Audi, BMW, Hino, Hyperloop, they go on, Nissan. It's just an incredible list. Over the last 10 years, he's been giving lectures at all sorts of universities, including Harvard, obviously very high status, London, Copenhagen, Tokyo, etc. So over to you, Jaime. Tell us about your current thinking.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you very much. And thank you, Adi. It was very interesting. And thank you, Javier. So let me take the screen. Okay. So today I would like to share with you quickly in the next 10 minutes what we call defining the new retail customer experience. And as Kate was saying, I mean, we're a design consultancy. We're based in Madrid, but 70% of our business is outside Spain. Our main clients are in Europe, but after Europe is the US and then Korea and Japan. And today, I mean, we're living in a different context. No? We all know that during COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen physical retailers suffer a lot, and we have seen stores closures, and also social distancing has limited the capacity of the stores. No? But one thing that has made a huge change is that the growth of e-commerce. I mean, today is almost $1 trillion, and it has grown overall about 20% just during COVID. So no matter how automated and digital a company has become, there will be always a need for physical interaction in the future of retail. As Adi was saying, this is not about just a single channel. It's about interacting in different ways. So if we need to outline 4 insights for retailers that they should keep in mind, no? The first thing is that they need to build a strong omnichannel strategy. This is a basic. I mean, you cannot fail here. You need to balance automation and human touch. We want to talk with people, we want to feel things. So automation is good for efficiency, it's good to improve processes, but it's not enough. You need to turn, as we heard before, stores into experiential destinations. I mean, if the experience that you have is just purely transactional in a flagship store, you will buy it online. There's no sense to go to a real store, no? And last but not least, I mean, you need to rethink the way you get products to customers. So how do you build a strong omnichannel experience? No? I think you need to create a seamless digital to physical world experience. This is critical. And for this to happen, the focus must be on a complete customer journey, where physical outlets play an important role, but cannot be considered in isolation. This means that you need to find and prioritize on insights and data to design a frictionless experience. You need to utilize a powerful CRM that traces how data travel through each point of contact to make sure that are being fulfilled at every touch point. But also you need to implement an integrated measuring system of all the data gathered in order to relate them with company KPIs. And you need to incorporate, as I said before, some automation, but not all. And last but not least is using all this data collected to develop optimization strategies that would improve service and experience in a tangible way. Here we see some examples. I just took a few, but there are a lot of them on the market right now. And Ali was also showing us some samples. No, Inditex probably is our biggest fashion retailer group in Spain and one of the biggest in the world. And they are quite advanced in using new technologies. No? And this is an example how Maximo Dutti is using augmented reality with shows experience. Kate was saying that Amazon Go is going to open 260 stores in the UK. Well, but they're also opening new concepts. No? And this is an example. They just announced its first hair salon in London. No? That you can test new retail technologies such as AR that will be used to allow customers to virtually try different hair colors before making a commitment to a new shade. No? We see also joint ventures with Japan Post and Rakuten in order to improve logistics and convenience. And let me pass to the next slide. And then you also you need to balance automation and human touch. If you look at the self-service technology market, it was valued $28.3 billion in 2019, but it's growing and it's going to grow more than 7% every single year in the next 6 years. Here, I want to share with you an example of McDonald's. McDonald's has been quite advanced in self-service processes and improved the customer experience. You can think at the end of the day that it's just buying a very simple food, but they really care that you do it in the best way. And they just launched some initiatives around the future of drive-thru, using artificial intelligence to personalize the drive-thru experiences, which has potential to impact the company in 25,000 worldwide drive-thru locations. So if you look at this video, basically what they are doing is thinking about having an omni-channel strategy. I mean, you can get into the shop, you can still as a counter, you can have a self-service kiosk if you want to do it yourself. They are empowering that, but also, I mean, just driving, they are also improving new channels. Amazon Go, no? They started in the US, they are expanding to new countries, and they're moving from digital to physical, no? And you could be thinking, why, no? Well, on one hand, there's 40% of the market that they don't use e-commerce. So I think they want to attract that audience. But on the other hand, they also want to learn from a physical perspective. And then, well, I think the presentation from Adi was quite clear, no? You need to turn stores into experiential spaces. And here I would just go quickly, but we have some samples. No? I mean, once it's Vans, no? I mean, they basically convert the flagship stores into what the purpose of the company is, no? So the location features a cinema, a cafe, a live music venue, and an art gallery, no? But we also have other examples. I mean, we have seen it in the last decade, no? How luxury stores, they have a restaurant or they have a cafe, banks that they have a cafe. And the reason why is because they want to turn it to experience. They want to basically help you to and attract you to go shopping, no? Or this company, no, that rather than just turn it into entertainment, they were looking at functionality, no? They have created cold rooms, a room with temperatures as low as minus 33 degrees Celsius, using AR to create a new environment that you are really like in the Everest or in a high mountain to test their products and to test their products at minus 33 degrees to check how good they are, no? So this is a very good sample of how you can turn physical retailers into an immersive experience. Or Zara, that has been quite advanced, I mean, using physical and merging physical and digital, no? Today in the store, you have a 15 minutes pickup. You can buy online and pick it in 15 minutes. You have virtual mirrors. You can check out without taking items out of the bag. And they're coming out with much more technology solutions in the next coming months. No? So you need to rethink the way you get products to customers. And we think this is key. No? We have seen also in the last 2 years how companies like Amazon Prime or even El Corte Inglés, they are serving your purchase in less than 2 hours. This is a real challenge. And this challenge implies new logistics. We have seen a tremendous increase of dark stores, and this is going to keep growing. I mean, there's no way that you can deliver in less than 2 hours in big cities if you don't have a very strong logistics and a set of dark houses around the city. No? The other thing that we're seeing is also the enabling of the delivery process. There's a few startups, and this is a Spanish one, in fact, Citybox 14, no? That was launched 5 years ago, and they are installing parcel boxes at condominium entries of the apartments. So you can deliver at any time your parcel, even if you are not at home. And also, we have seen new concepts of mobile stores. No? The increase of pop-up stores is growing quite a lot. And immediateness, no? You were mentioning at the beginning, Kate, I mean, this is a mega trend. People want things now. Not in 2 hours, they want it now. And you start to see companies like Gorilla or Dija, where they deliver the convenience shopping in less than 10 minutes to your house. This is amazing. This is really amazing. Less than 10 minutes. You forgot some Coke, so some ice for a dinner, you have some friends coming to home. In less than 10 minutes, you will have it at home. And payments, Javier was talking about PagoNext. Well, I think it's quite amazing what Klarna has done in the last 2-3 years, no? And the growth that they have had. But also what is very interesting is that they have been moving from financing services to a marketplace. And this is a big shift, no? So buy now, pay later, we think it's a big trend. It's increasing quite a lot. And we're gonna see it, as Javier was saying as well, in micropayments, not just in bigger amounts. And just to conclude, we believe that the future of retail won't be digital, virtual or physical, but a combination of the three. And the right balance would depend on each company and what it wants to achieve. The only thing that is for certain is that the correct combination would help empower brands and accelerate growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jaime. Also fascinating stuff. And it does bring to mind the figure that the NRF like to bandy around at the moment, which is that 81% of Gen Z prefer to shop in stores. So there is certainly positive hope for the future that we won't be losing the physical element of that triad that you mentioned there. So we now just have time for Q&A. So it's time for the audience to get involved. So I know that we have several questions. It's my job to dish them out. So thank you so much for those who have been typing away. There's a question here for Javier. What will the hot topics be in the payment sector for 2022? Do you foresee anything interesting coming up?
Oh, as I said, the speed at which change is coming to the payment space is only accelerating. So every week we have a new solution. Every day we have a new transaction in the market that brings another giant into providing new offering. We've seen a good number of examples in the videos that are not yet really out there, extended in a more industrialized way. The one example I highlight on just paying with your smile, or actually self-checkout that is extending more and more to any store around us, is just some of the trends we're going to see. I couldn't think of one specifically. I think by now, by later, it's probably one where we will see 2022 increasing significantly the penetration rates in more geographies than the European northern countries where all of this started. And probably that's the one that will be more massively perceived by the majority of us. But it's very hard to anticipate one in particular in payments because, as I say, the amount of investment that is going into providing new experiences, new journeys, removing friction from already loaded journeys is huge, and that will certainly result in a lot of surprises to all of us.
I have a supplementary question to you, Javier. We've obviously covered a lot of pay by smile, pay by face in China, and also the additional layer that beauty filters have been added because people didn't want to see their real faces reflected. They wanted the enhanced version that they're used to seeing on social media. But I do query whether Western consumers are quite as relaxed about facial recognition. There's quite a lot of controversy about that. Do you think that in Europe, many people will be willing to submit their facial biometrics to corporations in order to be able to pay?
I certainly do. I mean, the number of iPhones already in place, allowing you to pay with your facial recognition in any m-commerce transaction is already huge and exploding and continue growing at more than 50% rate. So I certainly do. Certainly, there will continue to be cultural differences in terms of the speed and how fast adoption happens in some corners of the world. But ultimately, it makes the experience easier, simpler, as long as we are able to keep fraud and risk out of the play, which to me is the key. And that's where we place a lot of our investment to make sure that we protect all these fancy ways of actually closing transactions. As long as we are able to be successful and keep fraud under control, I think we'll certainly see that coming everywhere in the world. Yeah.
Thank you. So we have a challenging question here for Adi. It's clear that VR will be a revolution, but in terms of society and philology, which somebody might need to define for me anyway, will VR do people ill to have more bad behavior? Will behavior be worse as a result of people using VR, I think is the essential question.
I don't know. It's as in, the way the market's evolving. I mean, the same kind of questions would have been asked of, when we first started having websites, as in, what will people do? And there is bad behavior, with trolling and the dark web and all that. I'm sure there will, but it's a system, right? So it's an organic system in the sense that it's not, specifically curated. The whole point of it is to be pervasive and for people to get in and do what they want to do. So I think it will ultimately, evolve in the same way that other such, all pervasive systems have. But I guess the one thing here is there's going to be a bit more immediacy in the sense that, that first person participatory engagement, yes, there is room there for there to be sort of, psychological sort of, torment or trauma or whatever. But also on the converse, I think there's huge potential for good. And, a lot of the projects, just to sort of speak to that, which is slightly tangential to what we're here to talk about, but is like, there's a lot of work at the moment that's going on with within the army with PTSD and how we can use VR to get people to confront that and use it as a form of therapy. So it's like anything, there's good and there's bad. I don't know if it's a question that we can answer here and predict what's going to happen, but I hope not. And I hope that there's enough people doing good things that there will be good outcomes too.
Thank you. I think there's a question here that would be good for Jaime, which is, how long can we expect? Oh, no, sorry. Do you think people will come back to shops, or are they more comfortable shopping from home?
Well, definitely. As I said before, and also you mentioned it, that Jens said 81% that they want to go shopping. But I think you need to turn shops into experiences. At the end, if it's just a pure transaction, then people would, what's the reason to go shopping? You will do it online, no? But I don't see, honestly, I don't see ourselves spending on the weekends 2-3 hours in front of a screen instead of going outside and walking through the street and just shopping. No? But the shops, as I said, they need to merge e-commerce with experience in the shop. No? And this is omnichannel. And you also need to increase the level of experience at how you can use new technologies at the store. No?
Absolutely. And I think sort of related to that is a question also for you, Jaime. Do we really need to have things in less than 10 minutes?
Not at all. But I think the new generation, they want things right now. And it's a mega trend. It's a mega trend that people want it. But I think if we want to be sustainable, and if we're talking about sustainability, I don't think, honestly, this is sustainable. Even 2 hours, Kate. Even 2 hours, the logistics sometimes to deliver in big cities in 2 hours is crazy. And the cost of doing that, no? Wouldn't make sense to have it in 3 hours. But this is a consumer behavior. They are demanding that. And the whole, all the retailers, they are getting into that loop. They are realizing, some of them, they're losing money. They're also realizing that many people, they buy online, they buy 2-3 sizes and then they return the other one. So the cost of selling and delivering that quick is quite expensive.
Yeah, I think from what we've seen, generally speaking, those which are the fast delivery services which use e-bikes obviously have a lighter impact on the environment, and those which employ their drivers or their cyclists or delivery people on a full-time basis, as opposed to via the gig economy, also tick some more of those social boxes than others. But there is, of course, that massive question, isn't there, as to whether all these services are delivering VR-backed, loss-making services which are fundamentally perhaps not sustainably going to be profitable in the future. And I think that's going to shake out, isn't it, in the future? Nobody really knows the answer to that yet. Interesting question.
Sorry, Kate, just to add on, the data that we manage, it says that 60% of the people they buy online, they want to pick up in store. So this is a 60%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is much more sustainable. It's better for the environment. It's actually better for the retailer. They manage to maintain their margins. We all know that, big supermarkets that send trucks to your house individually to make, delivery, are generally losing 10 to 15 pounds for every delivery that they make. That is obviously not sustainable. They all just have to do it because their competitors are doing it. And perhaps even more so now that the super fast delivery gorillas type competitors are doing that inconvenience. So I do think it's going to shake out to a point where, people will opt to have more bundled deliveries, for example, slower, more different things coming together in the same delivery. So that's environmentally more sensible. And actually, I think we will start to understand as consumers, we don't need everything immediately. Some things we do, but many things we don't. So it's better to pay less and spend, and get it in a longer time frame. Mm-hmm. Super interesting questions coming in. I'm going to try and get through as many as possible. There's one here for Javier. Will Pago Next be integrated in physical stores? That's a good question.
Yes, in physical stores, we're already integrated in physical stores, and I think we want to be present where commerce happens, and that is changing every day. And you're the experts, and you've been sharing with us a good number of examples on how this is turning into the next few years, and we want to be present wherever is needed, because at the end of the day, doesn't matter how the customer sees the product or explore the experience of actually testing and seeing how it fits. At the end of the day, to close a transaction, to enable checkout, there has to be a payment solution. So we work very hard to have the right architecture, the right technology that allows easy integration with any alternative payment method across any channel where commerce happens. So yes, we certainly see ourselves there. Otherwise, we would not be fulfilling our mission.
Thank you. Question here for Addy, I suspect, but others obviously feel free to chip in. How is social media, for example, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, reacting to VR?
Very well, because it's actually started as a social, a way of enhancing social engagement. So, obviously with Facebook and Oculus, and what TikTok is currently doing in terms of bringing more filters, AR filters, to the way in which they engage with, their fans and so forth. It's something that is being led actually by social platforms in terms of how we are engaging with VR and other immersive platforms. And actually this question also leads on to something that you guys have picked up before, that it's interesting that a lot of these questions are about sort of immediacy. But actually, it's really, I don't think that that's the point. I think that's one output. It's more about choice. And I think for social media, the reason social media, I think, is leading the charge on some of this is because they want more choice. They want more ways in which they can engage. And it's choice is the catalyst for how we are building these new engagement models rather than immediacy. Immediacy is, I think, one output of what has come from that. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of what I think.
Thanks. There is another kind of question here also, I suspect, for you, Addy. There, we can tell from these questions that people are coming to this issue or this idea of the metaverse with some trepidation and worry and concern. So I think this is reflected in this question. The future of the metaverse and commerce together is super exciting. I think we can all agree on that. I would like to ask, and this is from Inigo, so thanks for this question, Inigo. I would like to ask about the critical thinking we should apply around different technological developments to understand the possible impacts on our well-being as human beings. How can we design the metaverse to actually support our most essential needs?
That's a really big question. And I think there's two questions in there. There's one that's applicable to, what we're talking about here, which is, metaverse plus commerce and, where that's sort of going. And the other one about sort of well-being. And I'm with you on this, Inigo. It's like, if for me, so here's an equation, right, that I've been working on for a while, which is if we are creating more visceral engagement, there is an opportunity for us to make and have social impact. So for instance, with brands, if we were to reframe their brand values as, social good sort of questions or wider questions that are about, looking at the human condition in a bit more of a sort of, granular way. And if we were to build up from there, we could still sell products and still have commercial impact, but you'd have social impact as well, right? So there is that sort of well-being question there. But ultimately, in terms of how we design, that choice of words, we design the metaverse should be, in my opinion, an evolution, right? It's something that is, we're creating an environment. It's a blank canvas. Unfortunately, because it's not open source and it is an oligopoly, it's not going to get to a place where we as individuals with an interest can hack that system creatively and, build something that is, organic and representative of what we want. So all we can do is to create those sort of siloed metascapes, as I call them, and build what we want to build. And ultimately, hopefully, there will be enough ubiquity that we can push that forward. But to go back to the first part of the question, I think it's very important that as companies and brands, that we are careful about really understanding that relationship between content consumer and brand, because this is about people, this is about engagement, this is about consumer behavior, and we need to build from that point up rather than profit down. So I think that's, because we need to think about money and value in different terms. So that's what I'd say.
And there is another question, I think also to you, which is, what are the threats for the future of VR?
That it will remain an oligopoly. That it's the threats to VR are actually, Javier and Jaime sort of alluded to this. It's not an either or, right? So there's got to be a physical, we are in the real world. So there's got to be real world solutions. So the biggest threat to VR is that, we are going to get to a place where and I'm finding this already actually with some companies that I work with, which is, it's like, oh, should we build a VR solution? Great. So we'll do what we've already been doing in the way that we've done it. But let's build a VR experience because everyone else is doing it. And I think it's going to lose its potency because it's not being thought about in terms of the power that it actually has. That sort of, first-person participatory engagement is a key business driver. So I think that's a big threat. And the fact that it won't become open source.
And this question to anyone, what about the environmental impact controversy over the use of NFTs? Is that a payment question, Javier?
I guess it's a related question, but this is a very difficult question for which, honestly, I must confess I don't have a great answer. But sustainability is at the core of any relevant company these days, and we have to take into consideration what is going to be the impact on our ESG agenda when deciding to play a role in any of these NFTs or similar initiatives that actually create additional challenges to the ones that are already in place. So I don't have the answer, but certainly it's one that we need to sort out collectively as a society. So, yeah, I don't know if anybody has a better answer. Happy to learn.
Yeah, I would like to add that, we are living in a world that there's some controversy in the sense that people are fighting for a more sustainable world. But on the other hand, we are seeing these new technologies that they are burning energy like hell, and nobody says anything, no? So it's the same discussion we had before. Delivering 2 hours, it has a very high cost. Do we really need to deliver things in 2 hours? Not really. But the market is super high demanding. And the only thing I could say is that I hope in the next years, this could get balanced somehow. No? Like right now, I mean, cryptocurrencies, they're on a hype. And how to say it, like the product itself is beyond the ecosystem that they are creating. No? But I hope it will change. I'm really not a big fan of cryptocurrencies, even though today they represent $3 trillion. No?
Well, with that, we have come to very nearly the end of our hour and a quarter. So I'm going to hand back over to Jaime to close the session. But before I do that, obviously, I want to thank our very brilliant thought leaders, Javier, Adi, and Jaime. But back over to you, Jaime, to close the session.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate, very much. And thank you, Javier, Adi, for being here today. This is the last session of webinars that we have this year. We had 6 webinars this year of different topics that we think are quite interesting. I hope you all like it. Also, please write us. We probably we didn't cover all the answers, but feel free to write us and we'll try to respond you and give a proper answer if we can. No? And yeah, we'll see you. Next one would be sometime beginning of February. And thank you so much to everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.